Meghan and Harry just shared a new image of their beautiful baby girl. There's Lilibet, a candid shot at her birthday celebration wearing a blue outfit and a matching bow. Her best accessory? Her red locks just like her dad and brother Archie.
After years of mystery, speculation, and countless royal rumors, Buckingham Palace has finally revealed the true identity of Archie and Lilibet. And the truth is far more shocking than anyone imagined. What began as whispers about Meghan and Harry's children has now turned into a revelation that's left both fans and critics stunned. Hidden documents, royal DNA tests, and secret correspondences have come to light, exposing a story few ever saw coming. What did the palace finally confirm? Today, we uncover the shocking truth. Secrets of the royal records. The whispers began softly, a leaked memo, a quiet shuffle in the palace archives, and a sudden burst of questions no one at Buckingham seemed eager to answer. But by late October 2025, the world's attention was fixed on one mystery. What exactly had King Charles approved behind those gilded doors? For years, Harry and Meghan's departure from royal life had been called an experiment, but it was beginning to look more like a constitutional reckoning. To understand why the revelation shook both the monarchy and the public, one has to revisit how the Sussex chapter broke from every royal rulebook. When Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor arrived in 2019, centuries of tradition fell silent. There was no smiling couple on hospital steps, no easel at Buckingham Palace bearing the royal crest. Even the birth certificate, once a symbol of royal transparency, was quietly amended months later. Meghan's name and title were altered, an act brushed off by palace officials as a clerical update. Yet, it left royal watchers wondering, was it really just paperwork, or a coded message that something deeper was changing? Then came 2021, and the birth of Lilibet Diana in California, not London. Thousands of miles away from Windsor's careful choreography, the Sussexes declared their children would grow up as private citizens. But in a monarchy built upon bloodlines and records, privacy and royalty have never shared an easy alliance. For the palace, it wasn't just a family issue, it was a constitutional puzzle. Two royal children born beyond the crown's reach, their official records blurred between royal heritage and civilian independence. After Queen Elizabeth II's passing in 2022, King Charles inherited not only the throne, but a kingdom of complications. His reign was defined by two words: clarity and correction. Sources close to the palace described a quiet project called the Royal Records Review, launched to modernize the monarchy's internal archives. The mission sounded administrative, but insiders knew it touched the core of royal identity. Every baptism, every style, every title revisited. And when the review reached the Sussexes, the tension was unmistakable. Was it about punishment or preservation? The king's advisors insisted it was about accuracy, the need to maintain an institution that survives through record, ritual, and recognition. Still, the mere suggestion of reviewing the Sussex children's records stirred old wounds. Within days of the October 28th memo leaking, rumors spread that the Archbishop of Canterbury's office had been asked to verify Archie's christening and Lilibet's blessing. The palace refused to comment, but silence in royal language often speaks loudest. The review itself, sources say, was meticulous. Baptismal certificates from Lambeth Palace were cross-checked against private documents kept in Windsor's archives. The question was not of lineage, that was indisputable, but of status. Could two children raised in California still be considered part of the official royal register? Were they in or out of the system that has guided succession since the time of Henry VIII? Inside Buckingham, opinion was divided. Some aides reportedly argued that the children's heritage entitled them to full recognition, while others believed the Sussexes' self-exile had created a precedent that needed formal definition. "You cannot half leave the institution," one courtier was overheard saying. "You're either in the system or outside it." By early November, quiet adjustments were rumored to have been made to the royal database. Nothing public, nothing confirmed. But those close to the king insist it was less about cutting ties and more about bringing order to confusion. "His Majesty wants peace, not punishment," said one longtime insider. He knows history will judge him by how he handles family, not just state. Still, the timing couldn't be ignored. The The monarchy, already bruised by years of scandal and scrutiny, from Prince Andrew's disgrace to internal audits, seemed to be cleaning house, one file at a time. So now the world watches, waiting for the palace's next update, wondering if those ancient ledgers, once sealed with wax and silence, have been rewritten to reflect a modern truth. And as royal fans speculate what the final record might reveal, one question lingers in every whisper across Britain. Did King Charles just correct a clerical oversight, or quietly redraw the royal map forever? Was King Charles simply fixing a clerical error? Or was Buckingham Palace orchestrating a move that could reshape the monarchy in ways the world hadn't anticipated? Shadows in the royal ledger. Shadows in the royal ledger. No one expected Buckingham Palace to make headlines that night. Not again, not after months of royal unease. Yet, just as the clocks struck 9:45 p.m. in November, something curious unfolded. The digital archives of the royal court circular, usually as routine and quiet as the ticking of a palace clock, vanished from public view. For exactly 23 minutes, the page went dark. When it reappeared, a single new entry gleamed at the top. Records pertaining to the Duke of Sussex's descendants reviewed and aligned in accordance with protocol. Those few words, vague, formal, and strangely timed, sparked a firestorm across 2 continents. Within minutes, hashtags like Royal Records and Palace Update dominated global feeds. BBC News anchors broke into live coverage, and American talk shows speculated wildly about what reviewed and aligned could really mean. Was this a bureaucratic update, or something deeper, perhaps a quiet redefinition of who truly counted as royal blood? Across the Atlantic, at their home in Montecito, California, the Sussexes reportedly learned of the update just as the world did. One American journalist close to Meghan's circle claimed she felt blindsided. Betrayed was the word whispered Prince Harry, ever the mediator, was said to have urged calm. "It's procedure, Meg, not war," he told a friend, but those who knew him best said he was far from calm. For Harry, every move from London carried an echo of old wounds, of strained phone calls, broken trust, and the unending tension between duty and distance. Inside Buckingham Palace, however, the mood was one of careful calculation. King Charles III, burdened by the weight of both history and health rumors, had spent months tightening the seams of royal protocol. From dealing with Prince Andrew's disgrace to settling the storm around Queen Camilla's inheritance headlines, the king had grown determined to secure his legacy through order. "Assumptions cannot preserve the crown," he reportedly told aides. "Records will." To some, it was the act of a meticulous monarch determined to bring clarity before his reign waned. To others, it felt like a quiet act of vengeance, a father reasserting control over a son who had defied the palace's script one too many times. Still, those close to the royal household insist this was no punishment. Rather, it was Charles's way of ensuring the monarchy's story remained factual, not dictated by gossip or public sympathy. At Kensington Palace, Prince William and Princess Catherine watched the uproar with their trademark calm. William, cautious as ever, warned aides not to engage. "Every word we say becomes a storm," he murmured. Catherine, pragmatic and measured, reportedly told a close confidant, "Better it comes from the palace than from the press." Yet even she admitted the move carried risk, a reminder that transparency could cut both ways. By morning, theories spread faster than the palace could respond. Some wondered if the review hinted at new legal clarifications over Archie and Lilibet's positions in the royal lineage. Others thought it was merely administrative housekeeping, a way to tidy records that hadn't been updated since Queen Elizabeth II's passing. But within the palace corridors, whispers told another story. One long-serving courtier later revealed, "It wasn't what was written that unsettled people. It was what the king might decide to do next." And so, under the gleam of polished chandeliers and the silence of guarded hallways, a new royal mystery took shape, not of scandal or betrayal, but of legacy.
The castle in which we meet this evening was begun by my ancestor.
A single late-night entry, 23 minutes of darkness, and a question that still lingers. What truth hides behind the words, aligned in accordance with protocol? Because for all its calm language and careful phrasing, the phrase, aligned in accordance with protocol, wasn't the end. What hidden tension was quietly brewing at Buckingham Palace that morning? Inside, King Charles' most controversial decision yet. The morning air around Buckingham Palace was unusually tense on November 2nd. Behind the golden gates and immaculate gardens, something unsettling was unfolding. What was supposed to be a quiet internal review of royal family records had exploded into an international storm before anyone could contain it. Overnight, whispers turned into headlines, and by dawn, the world was asking one question. What exactly had the palace revealed about Archie and Lilibet? Inside the palace, aides moved briskly through marble corridors, their whispers bouncing off the polished walls. A single line in the official court circular, family records adjusted per tradition, had set off a frenzy. To the untrained eye, it was a simple administrative note, but for the media, it was dynamite. Every outlet from London to Los Angeles interpreted it as a hint of something deeper, perhaps a correction, a clarification, or even a quiet rewriting of royal history. King Charles, sitting in his private study, was calm but unreadable. Those close to him said he'd known this day would come. The monarchy must stand on order, not sentiment. He reportedly told his private secretary that morning to him, the review wasn't scandalous, it was necessary. After all, royal bloodlines are the backbone of Britain's ancient institution, and in an age where every secret is one click away, uncertainty could be dangerous. Still, the leak changed everything. In another wing of the palace, Princess Anne arrived without ceremony. Ever the realist, she didn't waste words.
So that we give the opportunities for our award winners to develop what they know is necessary.
You can't demand loyalty from the people if your own records aren't clear, she said bluntly to her brother. She wasn't wrong. Ambiguity fuels speculation, and speculation was already flooding every corner of the internet. The king valued her frankness, though he knew her stance would add fuel to a delicate fire. One sibling defending transparency while another, far away, felt betrayed by it. Over at Adelaide Cottage, Prince William was handling his own storm. Advisors were torn, remained silent, and risk being accused of secrecy, or respond and risk turning it into a circus. William, having inherited his mother's composure and his grandmother's patience, chose restraint. "Let them talk," he said quietly, glancing at Catherine. She nodded, ever the calm voice beside him. "Stillness can be the strongest statement," she murmured. But across the ocean in Montecito, calm was the last thing on Harry and Meghan's minds. Reports suggested Meghan was on the phone to her lawyers before sunrise, her tone sharp with frustration. "Why now?" she asked, fearing that even a hint of royal adjustments might cast doubt on her children's place in the royal lineage. Harry, weary from years of distance, made a discreet attempt to reach out to his father through a trusted aide. The reply, when it came, was as formal as it was final. No clarification necessary. The records speak for themselves. For Harry, it felt like another wall going up. "I wanted peace, not proof," he reportedly told a friend. But the palace wasn't built for emotional exchanges. Inside its centuries-old walls, protocol always outweighs sentiment. Publicly, officials insisted nothing constitutional had changed. It's simple record housekeeping, one spokesperson told reporters, though few were convinced. And yet, behind the polished words and carefully timed statements, a deeper story lingered.
In spite of this progress, accessing help is still a confusing marketplace.
Not about titles or documents, but about trust. The monarchy has survived wars, divorces, and scandals. But in an era where every update sparks global debate, one wonders, can tradition still stand unshaken in the digital age? Whatever the answer, November 2025 will be remembered as the day the Crown's quiet paperwork whispered louder than any royal proclamation. And the world, once again, couldn't stop listening. But everyone knew that quietly documenting a new generation was more than paperwork. What shocking impact would this unprecedented move have on the monarchy and the world watching? A royal boundary. King Charles redefines the monarchy. By late morning, Buckingham Palace had quietly but unmistakably drawn a line in the sand. For the first time in recent memory, the monarchy had formally documented a generation that existed beyond the immediate circle of duty. Royal by blood, not by roll. A brief but precise entry in the royal court circular dated November 2nd landed like a ripple across the globe. Though the words were few, the implications were seismic. Certain members of the royal family would no longer carry titles or the style His Her Royal Highness. The phrase itself, cold in its brevity, marked a boundary that many insiders had long suspected would arrive but never imagined would be formalized so decisively. Within hours, international news outlets mobilized. BBC, Sky News, ITV panels, and even American networks dissected every nuance, debating what aligned with royal protocol truly entailed. Legal experts traced the move back to letters patent, first formalized in 1917 under King George V, which defined who could hold princely titles. For decades, interpretations had fluctuated, allowing certain royals to enjoy the privileges of title without serving the crown directly. Now, King Charles appeared to be codifying a smaller, leaner monarchy, a quiet recalibration rather than a public spectacle. It was law and legacy converging with discretion, a subtle power play executed without the fanfare the world had come to expect. Across London, whispers in Parliament hinted at admiration. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, during a private lunch, reportedly called the decision a masterclass in measured reform. Even across the Atlantic, conservative pundits on Fox News remarked on the king's disciplined approach, noting that while the royal facade appeared serene, subtle tensions had long been simmering behind closed doors. Court insiders hinted at months of private deliberation, during which advisors, legal counsel, and even distant relatives had been consulted to ensure that the circular would withstand public scrutiny and historical analysis alike. The palace had prepared for every eventuality, yet the ripple effect exceeded expectations. Inside Buckingham, the communications office was quietly divided. Some staff pushed for a formal press briefing to preempt speculation. Others argued that silence was the strategy itself, a nod to the late Queen Elizabeth's enduring maxim, never complain, never explain. By evening, palace social media feeds featured a serene photograph of Windsor Castle, accompanied by the understated caption, "Service, duty, continuity." No mention of Archie or Lilibet, yet the message was unmistakable. This action wasn't merely about children or titles, it was about defining the boundaries of the crown itself, drawing a clear line between those whose lives are bound to royal duty and those who exist outside it. The implication was that royal privilege is inseparable from responsibility, and that any perception of entitlement without service was no longer acceptable. By the end of the day, public reaction had polarized. Supporters praised the king's quiet decisiveness, seeing in it a subtle exercise of authority that restored clarity after years of ambiguity. Critics, however, interpreted it as control dressed as policy, a veiled effort to reclaim influence over those who had never asked for royal privilege. In London, news anchors spoke in tones usually reserved for constitutional crises, while analysts combed every word of the court's circular for hidden meaning. Social media erupted with debate, with hashtags ranging from royal clarity to titles and tradition trending within hours. Every interpretation seemed to echo the same underlying truth. The monarchy had spoken, not with speeches or press conferences, but through careful, irrevocable record, a statement of power, precedent, and enduring legacy. King Charles himself, according to those close to him, viewed the decision with measured gravity. "You cannot lead without clarity," he remarked privately to a longtime aide, "and you cannot preserve respect without truth." In this quiet act, he bridged his mother's enduring legacy of restraint with a vision of transparency for a new era, proving that the crown could command not by spectacle, but by principle. Across the globe, the message was clear. The monarchy had not weakened, it had redefined itself, one meticulous line at a time, reminding the world that true power often lies in precision, patience, and the courage to draw boundaries. Was it proof that boundaries and patience finally paid off? Or did the palace's announcement quietly reshape Archie and Lilibet's place in the royal hierarchy? Royal records and quiet power. King Charles's subtle statement. The announcement landed with a quiet force, rippling through London, Montecito, and beyond. Buckingham Palace confirmed that Archie and Lilibet's royal titles had been clarified: Prince Archie of Sussex and Princess Lilibet of Sussex. Yet with one crucial note, these were courtesy titles, not constitutional ones. To the untrained eye, it seemed a minor adjustment. To royal observers, constitutional experts, and palace insiders, it was a firm reminder of control. Courtesy could be withdrawn at any moment, a silent assertion of authority hidden behind ceremonial language. Inside the palace, King Charles carried himself with composed certainty. The review, he explained to his senior aides, was never about punishment, but about order. "Every truth now sounds like war," he murmured one morning, scanning headlines and social media feeds that chronicled every nuance of the royal household. Threads of private family decisions had become public spectacle overnight, each post, tweet, and commentary magnifying the tension. Charles's calm exterior masked the careful calculation behind the decision, the need to preserve the dignity of the monarchy, even while navigating the messiness of modern family dynamics. Prince William, as always, found himself in the role of mediator. Friends close to the Duke of Cambridge noted that he made several urgent calls to his father, urging a humanizing statement to soften public perception. "It's spiraling again," he warned. Charles, unwavering, replied simply, "The record stands. Silence is our strength." His words carried weight, not just as a reminder to the family, but as a subtle message to the world. The monarchy adapts, but it does not relinquish control. Across the Atlantic, Harry and Meghan observed the unfolding drama from Montecito. Harry reportedly felt a mix of relief and frustration. Relief that his children's names were formally acknowledged. Frustration that the clarification had come without any consultation. "I didn't need a royal correction. I needed a royal connection," he confided to a trusted friend. Meghan, by contrast, was reportedly outraged. Sources indicate she perceived the move as a calculated assertion of power. "They used bureaucracy to remind us who's in charge," she remarked bitterly. The debate quickly spilled into public forums. In Britain, Prime Minister Keir Starmer defended the palace's action, calling it a responsible act of transparency in a constitutional monarchy across the Atlantic. Former President Donald Trump, ever fascinated by royal affairs, commented on a televised interview, praising the king for maintaining order within the household. Headlines reflected the tension. The modern monarchy was negotiating tradition, authority, and public perception in real time, and every word, gesture, and decision was dissected by millions. Meanwhile, palace archivists worked quietly, transferring the updated entries into the official succession database. To them, it was routine, paperwork and records, nothing more. To the public, it became symbolic closure, a tangible act amid an otherwise invisible struggle. Senior royal correspondents noted the striking irony. King Charles's first official act of reform in the modern era was administrative, not reconciliatory. Ink and parchment restored order, even as emotional scars lingered beneath the polished surface. Even as evening fell, the chapel bells of Windsor tolled solemnly, mist curling around the palace facade. Across social media and news outlets, debate raged endlessly, analyzing, theorizing, and speculating inside. Charles remained at his desk, pen in hand, finalizing the record. A quiet, decisive moment. A reminder that the monarchy endures not through spectacle alone, but through measured authority, enduring traditions, and the unyielding weight of duty. In that stillness, history and family converged, and the subtle power of the crown asserted itself once more. Yet for many, the act was more than ceremonial. It was a message. Titles can be granted, but recognition must align with responsibility. The monarchy, centuries old, had found a way to enforce accountability without raising its voice. And the world watched, reminded that even in the age of instantaneous media, quiet authority could still reverberate louder than scandal. The crown had spoken, in ink, in ceremony, and in resolve. When the crown's decisive move sent ripples worldwide, what subtle yet powerful impact shocked Britain and captured global attention? Precision over scandal. Such a gesture was subtle, almost invisible to the casual observer. yet its impact rippled across continents. By November 3rd, Britain awoke to headlines that felt heavier than usual. Buckingham Palace had quietly finalized a long-awaited review of royal records, clarifying the official identities of Archie and Lilibet. What might have seemed like mere bureaucratic housekeeping quickly became a moral referendum on the monarchy itself. For some, it was proof that the crown could act decisively and with accountability. For others, it felt like a pointed reminder that no matter how far Harry and Meghan had moved from royal life, the crown still held the pen that wrote their story. Across social media, pundits debated tone and intent, while royal commentators dissected every nuance of the palace statement. Even the phrase, "clarified procedural records," became a lightning rod, sparking threads and theories, stretching from London to Los Angeles. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was a careful balance of tension and resolve. Princess Anne viewed the move as an act of courage, a tidy alignment of facts designed to secure the monarchy's long-term stability. "We cannot lead the future with blurred pages," she told a close aide, her tone firm yet measured. Her conviction contrasted sharply with the unease rippling through other members of the family. Prince William, for instance, felt the weight of perception pressing down on him. Protecting the institution was instinctual, yet even he understood that this revelation risked alienating a generation already skeptical of royal rigidity. "Silence can look like distance," he admitted privately, aware that even well-intentioned acts could be misunderstood when broadcast across an unforgiving global media. Across the Atlantic, Meghan wrestled with frustration and exhaustion in Montecito. The quiet rectification of Archie and Lilibet's records reminded her that control over narrative, long pursued, was not hers to claim entirely. She consulted with advisors, rereading statements, weighing responses, and calculating how to address the situation without inflaming tensions further. Harry, quieter in his reaction, found at least a small consolation. The children were officially recognized in the royal ledger. Yet even this acknowledgement carried the bittersweet weight of separation. The siblings' story, once imagined as a bridge between two worlds, now felt irreparably divided. Their connection to the monarchy was defined more by legal precision than by personal ties or shared moments, a reflection of how rules could sometimes outweigh bonds. Global reactions mirrored this split. The New York Times framed the palace's move as an example of precision and restraint, praising it as necessary governance. The Guardian, conversely, criticized the monarchy for wielding bureaucracy like a weapon. Commentators across Canada, Australia, and the wider Commonwealth noted the delicate balance Charles had achieved: decisiveness without spectacle, firmness without overt scandal. Inside the palace, the king himself remained reflective. "Compassion requires clarity," he confided to his private secretary, "and the crown cannot survive without truth." Every detail mattered, from the careful wording of statements to the timing of announcements, ensuring that the crown's integrity, above all, remained intact. By week's end, Buckingham Palace returned to its routines: remembrance, Sunday preparations, engagements for the Princess of Wales, and winter retreat logistics at Sandringham. Yet the echoes of the record review lingered, a reminder that the monarchy had reasserted itself not through scandal or confrontation, but through order. Every name, every title, every record became a line in history, carefully inked for generations to come. For Charles, this review carried forward his mother's legacy, while also breaking from her silence. Queen Elizabeth had ruled with discretion, believing mystery to be dignity. Her son chose transparency, even when it unsettled hearts. Across Britain and beyond, the message resonated: integrity is not inherited. It is chosen day by day, decision by decision. In the end, the palace reminded the world that power does not always lie in control. Sometimes, it is measured by the courage to correct. So what do you think the palace really revealed about Archie and Lilibet's identity? Could it rewrite royal history? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.